yes.
you know.
Tell me, Michelle.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah.
What is up, guys? Welcome to Linda Insights. My name is Linda Moyo, and I have a very special guest with me, Michelle Armster. When I first met this lady, I don't even remember what happened, what environment we were in, but I was like, I want to be just like her when I grow up. And I am here talking to her and getting some life insights from her. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Linda. I really enjoyed being here. I'm honored that you asked me to, sit down and have a conversation with you about the events of the last, we say the events of the last week, but really it's been the events of the history of persons of African descent on this continent. So let's just say for the last 600 years.
Yeah.
And in the last week, it has come to the mind of people, and we're talking about what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis. And so, so on the one hand, we take this isolated incident, but this is, at least 600-year history on this continent that first started with the genocide of indigenous people and the forced removal from their lands of indigenous people and the enslavement of African people. So this has a long history. I think what has happened is that with the onset of cell phones and immediacy and connection to media, when it used to be a police camera on, they could turn that on and off. People in the street are turning it on and uploading it, and so. But this has been the lived experience of people of African descent in this country for generations, and for people of indigenous peoples on this continent for generations. So this ain't new, but I'm glad something's happening.
Yeah. Since now everybody is starting to witness this with their own eyes. Especially people like us who have been through this.
Yes.
How in the world are we supposed to take this? How are we supposed to receive all of this?
I watched a Facebook live conversation last night talking about this particular issue. And the question that the facilitator asked initially was, so how are you feeling? And she asked the persons of color who were on the panel, so how are you feeling? And some of the words were exhausted, traumatized, tired, angry, and not trusting people, and I would say all of those are understandable feelings for what is happening, because on the one hand, we know how this racism works. We know how systemic racism works. We learned for generations how to navigate the system and try to not get as much of it on you, that kind of thing. We've had to learn how to do that, and so and now dominant culture people, white people, are now saying, like, oh, they must not be lying. And
we're telling the truth.
We're like, we've been saying this, but not. So now you know, and I think what's really hard during this time is now you know, and now you want to come and talk to me about it. But do you understand that you talking to me about this is traumatizing? It's violence, and I can't do that, because what I am seeing is what has been done to generations. I mean, it's like it's in my DNA. I am drawn back to my great grandfather who was lynched. And because a white man wanted to rape his wife, and my great grandfather beat him down, and the white man came and lynched him. And so my grandfather left in the middle of the night because his mother said, you can't stay here, because my grandfather was very upset and he was getting ready to go after those men. Yeah. And so my grandfather left in the middle of the night, left his home in in Georgia, and never returned, left his mother there and never returned. So when we talk about historical trauma, we talk about epigenetics, we carry that with us, and I carry the rape of my grandmother, my great grandmother. So when I have to have this conversation, like about racism and systemic racism and violence to black bodies, it's traumatizing, and I don't want to have that conversation in that way, because oftentimes the conversation is, one, it's wanting to know more information. Well, I don't want to talk about that. And the other is to question my lived experience. Ooh. And I'm like, I'm not going to talk about that either. Mm-hmm. So what do we do? I really do think we need to establish, create, provide for ourselves and others safe spaces that allow us to rail against the machine, that allows us to, searching for that balm in Gilead that the scriptures talk about in Jeremiah. There is where is the balm in Gilead? Well, how do we create those spaces that are healing and soothing and a place of cleansing and places of affirming? I think that's what we need to do and to have and to be. And it's hard during these COVID times.
What does that even look like?
What does that even look like?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like things like drawing a bubble bath, making it real bubbly with a whole lot of bubbles, but salts in it. Whatever I need, just whatever I want in it. Candle. Mm-hmm. I love Lizzo.
Yes.
So play me some Lizzo and just sit there, put a mask. That's caring for myself deeply and meaningfully, and then just lather myself up with, lotions and what. That's one thing. One thing I don't do well is to exercise, and I know it's very important, and I know that part of my body's reaction to all of this is to shut down.
Yeah. So what do you do, especially because I've done this as a person of color? I have shut down. I see all these social media posts, all these protests, people acting, but I'm just like, I can't move. Okay. So what do you do?
Yeah. I can't. There were in my younger days. Now I was out there, but now I'm like, look, if I get taken off to the jail, I need my medication. I don't have my medication with me anyway. And this moment for me is a moment for white people who think they are allies, or who call themselves allies, or who call themselves accomplices. This is time for them to stand up, because this has been happening, So, this is time for you to show that you truly are. Show me that you're not Amy. Show me that you're not Amy Cooper. Who that white woman, because her dog was running loose in the Central Park in an area that says you must have your dog on a leash, and a black man tells her, "Would you please put your dog on the leash?" And she says, "I am going to call the New York Police Department and tell them that a black man is harassing me." And she picked up her phone and called the police on him, and he's videotaping her. He goes, "Go ahead and call, because I'm taping it all. I'm taping it all right now." And all from the very beginning. And that she was mad because he had enough nerve to tell her to put her dog on the leash. Luckily, he was taping it. He was recording it. and it was uploaded, and everybody saw it, and she lost her job. And then her excuse was, well, I was just really upset. You used the white tool that destroys lives by calling the police in New York City and saying that you, as a white woman, that a black man made you feel scared. There is no excuse. I mean, there's no apology you can make for that, because you were willing to have that man die because he told you that your dog needed to be on the leash in a park that says your dogs need to be on the leash. For me these days, I have to be, when it comes to personal, or when it comes to healthy or life-giving spaces, I really find myself, I probably have like one or two white friends that I can't talk to, and they know this is not something for me to talk about. And if it comes out of my mouth, they sit and listen, but they're not like
initiating.
They're not initiating and asking me all these questions. And so I have relationships with them that I trust, because I know that they are not going to initiate or contribute to any traumatizing. And I'm in spaces with really with other women of color, So I've got a call tonight that I'm with a woman who's Filipino Canadian, and a woman who's Indigenous Cheyenne, and I are having a conversation, talking about what it means for us as women of color whose bodies and lives are under attack. So those are the spaces that I have to be in during this time, because I don't want the trauma, and I don't watch any of it either. I don't watch any of the films, because to me it's like trauma porn.
Yeah, it is.
It is, and I don't, because I don't need that for my spirit. I don't need that for my spirit.
So for the white people who truly are wanting to see change and to do good, what in the world are they supposed to do?
You know what? I think there could have been a time when they could ask that question and really sincerely, there wouldn't be much out there for them. The reality is there are organizations like Showing Up for Racial Justice, which is a white anti-racism organizing group. Good resources, good. They have local chapters, and that's also known as SURJ, SURJ. So that's one organization. Baby, Google will bless your life. Just Google. There are writers such as Tim Wise. He is a white man who writes about trying to become an anti-racist. Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility. The thing is do your work. Don't expect people of color to do the work for you. Because when you do that, you're disrespecting them as like this. What's happening is traumatizing. What's happening is painful. What's happening brings up that historical trauma that continues to live in our bodies. And if you truly care about the person of color that you are, that you say that you are an ally with, then you wouldn't want to continue to. You don't want to traumatize them. So do your work. Do your work, and do your work with other white people. Because I think anti-racism, anti-oppression work is about soul work, healing of the soul. And racism, not only does it destroy people of color, I mean, it's meant to do that, and it does that. And so for people of color, it's soul work. And for white people too, it's soul work, because what did you have to give up to be white? What happened? Anti-oppression work is about becoming human, fully human, owning all of who you are. And so that human work that we're all trying to do, and there are times in which we can come together, but there are times that the work is different for each other, and when we do the work, then we can have, I think, healthier, more life-giving, more trusting relationship. But if the work is not being done, it can be very damaging. So it's soul work. That's what I really believe.
I once heard this thing where it said it takes the wisdom of the elderly and the energy of the little kids.
Yeah.
Let's talk about children.
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to bring up these conversations to them?
Yeah. Children are not. They know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have the vocabulary to articulate it as well as we do, but if we're honest, we don't articulate this well. We just have a lot of words.
Yeah.
But children can articulate it, and I think children really get at the essence of it, right? They know, it's kind of like they know something is not right, and so it's that kind of thing, that kind of innocence, and so what I believe that we need to provide the space for the conversation to happen. They won't ask the question like we would, but be able to provide a space for them that they can ask questions. That I think that's what's important. And children are adventurous, and I mean there are just so many. They can go to museums online.
They can find anything.
They can do it. You can be really creative online, and so really kind of curate those kinds of spaces for them to learn. Because this is the age that they're learning. There's wonderful books, and I think it's important for us to be intentional for them, providing them with these opportunities, and also being willing to be present for them. I love children's books. I don't even have children. I love children's books.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of children's books at home, and I just love reading stories to children. I just pull out one of my books, and if a child lets me read, they can fall asleep. But as long as they let me read, though.
That's good.
But one of the things that's intentional about the books that I have are books that are one about children of color, primarily, and or about conflict resolution. Working through issues, and I like the stories that are kind of fantastical. Stories that are kind of fairy tales. I like the fairy tales and the folk tales, and I like those kinds of stories, and I'm also a storyteller. Storytelling is important, even if it's the whole storytelling that is folk tales and fairy tales have messages.
Oh yeah,
powerful messages, and just doing that with them and for them. So because they know. A number of my staff, they have children, and it's interesting to hear them come and tell me some of the conversations that they have with their young. And these are like, 8, 7, 8, 9, and they'll ask their parents questions, and they work with their own stuff. I'm not called to come over there. But they tell me just how their conversations will go with them. And that's what I think is key. Providing a space so that the children feel free to be able to have that conversation, right? Because we're struggling. We're struggling ourselves with it. Let's say like, hey baby, let's just struggle with this together. I know, because I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you have a last message that you would like to share with everybody?
I just stay in the struggle. There, we are all going to make mistakes. We are all not going to do it the right way. We're going to hurt feelings, and we're going to be hurt.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to realize, and I speak as a person of faith, that this journey that I'm on in terms of being a Christian is not a journey that has an ending tomorrow. You know, my life is about living out what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And so what we know about Jesus is because he challenged systems of oppression in his day, that the Roman government had to crucify him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was an insurgent. People want to act like, you know, they like the picture of Jesus with the lamb, and I like, you know, it's a cute little picture with the long blonde hair, but we ain't gonna go there. That's a whole different subject. But Jesus caused an insurrection because people on the margins heard this news of freedom, this news, this community of people that were accepted for who they were, regardless of gender. You know, that was another big deal. So Jesus was talking to or challenging religious leaders.
Oh yeah.
As well as political leaders. The man was a revolutionary. So let's reclaim the revolutionary radical Jesus. And if we're going to say that we are a follower of Jesus, then we should be doing the revolutionary radical acts.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about things. I believe that Jesus was a person that his way of operating was direct, nonviolent. You know, it was direct and it was nonviolent, and that's what got him killed. That's what got Martin Luther King killed.
Yeah.
Because to be direct, nonviolent is a threat to the systems of oppression.
For sure.
It's a threat. So, and that's what we're called to be if we say we are a follower of Jesus. So, you know, better get on your knees, start praying. We all need to pray.
Oh, goodness. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful insights.
Well,
I know that everybody's going to get something so good to hold on to. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable to talk to you and kind of think these things through, because we just need to take that time to reflect. Need to find those moments to reflect. So thank you so much for bringing that out in me.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you. Take care. Be blessed. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. That's what she said.
Oh.